back. I'm Nathaniel Rogers from thefilmexperience.net.
And I'm Katey Rich from cinemablend.com.
This time we're going to talk to you about Pixar's 10th feature, Up. This is an adventure film about a very old man, a retired old man, Carl Fredricksen, who attaches a bunch of balloons.
He's a former balloon salesman. As are we now.
This is our set.
We're very high budget here.
And he attaches a bunch of balloons to his house and lifts off into adventure. He has a stowaway, of course, Russell, a small boy. And they go on this adventure to Paradise Falls. And, of course, you have to add cute animals because it's an animated picture. So we get a very fun bird and a hilarious dog.
This makes this movie sound so bad. Hilarious dog. But it's Pixar, so you know that they're going to make it work.
Right.
And I think we wanted to leave the plot description there because that's where it starts to get interesting and you don't want to spoil anything. The part that I think really grabs you and will get both the really big film fans and just regular moviegoers into it is the very beginning. You meet Carl first as a small child and he meets Ellie. And they're both very into the explorer Charles Muntz, who's like a Charles Lindbergh kind of figure. And then you see this montage of their life together. They get married, and they move into the house that was their play fort. And it's this completely silent montage. And that sounds really, like you see that in romantic comedies, but it's done so beautifully here. You see the fact that they can't have children, and you see the fact that they've been saving up for this trip to Paradise Falls the whole time, and all these everyday little things get in the way. And it's this kind of real masterwork of editing and clean, simple storytelling that you saw in WALL-E too, the silent opening of WALL-E, and this is just kind of a continuation of that.
They're becoming so sophisticated with their animated films that they're now using the visual storytelling primarily to give you the theme as opposed to saying the theme. I don't want to give away how they do that, but as you're watching it, the initial buoyancy and the initial adventure that you're feeling with this house and carried away by balloons, the movie's so light and buoyant for so long that the way it gradually shifts to reveal what the theme is I think really masterfully handled. And some people complained about WALL-E being too on the nose.
I watched Ratatouille today, and it's got the same thing of saying anyone can cook, and you know, just because you're who you are doesn't mean you don't have to be that way. And Up definitely doesn't have that. And I think a lesser movie would have just kept with the whole adventure theme the whole time, and at the end, you know, they've been rejuvenated by the adventure. But it really does. It goes in unexpected directions, which most kids' movies I don't think would be up to the challenge. One of the parts that I think would appeal to children more and also appeal to me is the character of Doug, the talking dog, who I just think is one of my favorite Pixar inventions there's ever been, because he can talk because of a collar that just translate his dog thoughts. He's not very smart at all, and he's very devoted and loyal, and he just comes up, he speaks in very complete sentences. He says, you are my master now. He's voiced by the producer Bob Peterson, and just really wonderfully. Yeah, I love him in this movie. Kind of like the hamster and Bolt. Like a similar kind of figure, but I think less cutesy, less like trying to win your love. But like, at the same time, the character is so desperate for appeal, but the filmmakers don't really push him on you like that. So, like a very good way to handle a talking dog.
Right. Yeah, the talking dog wants the love that you're very willing to give him as an audience, but he can't get it in the movie. So it's like this very endearing. Endearing subplot.
Exactly.
It shows their inventiveness as screenwriters at Pixar as well. Because it's not just one joke.
Yeah.
The talking dog that you see in the trailer, the squirrel.
Yeah.
That's not just one joke. They find ways, like all great comedies do actually, they find ways of tweaking the joke so that the joke is 10 jokes.
Yeah, they take the joke and then they do it in a different way the next time, and they bring it back a third time, and then when it comes in a fourth time, you're expecting it and something different happens. Like, they work with comedy so well.
The pacing is great, and pacing the utmost important for comedy.
Yes,
which
so much.
Live action filmmakers have completely forgotten about pacing.
Yeah.
Whereas with this Pixar, it's very short, and it understands sort of like screwball comedy pacing.
Yes,
that's bang, 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 bang.
It was probably my favorite movie of last year, and it represented a big step forward in what you can do with animation. And Up, in a way, is kind of a step backwards in its simplicity. Again, it doesn't have the same sense of a great leap forward, which doesn't bother you when you're watching it at all, but kind of looking back at it, you feel like maybe they could have gone even further with this one.
Right. It was always going to be hard to follow up WALL-E.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish that the sort of little flourishes of the plot they would pull back a little bit. There's a lot of like sort of zany chase scenes.
Yeah, a lot of bright colors, a lot of dogs.
So it's very, like, the theme is very subtle and the adventure's really fun, but toward the end I think it starts getting a little cluttered. But that's a minor complaint because the movie's very good.
And what I loved about the ending, to not give anything away, it morphs into a much more traditional action or adventure story. Like, it felt like the ending of Star Wars or something like that, where everyone's banding together and solving the problem. And I wrote in my review that I posted on Cinema Blend today that it's kind of impossible to rank the Pixar movies because as soon as you rank them, another one comes along, and it's so soon as the last one.
Which is a blessing.
Yeah. Oh God! Every year, how do we get so lucky to have a new Pixar movie every year?
This is their 10th feature, so that naturally leads to top 10.
Yes.
Not that we're going to rank the entire top 10.
We're trying to cut down the running time this time.
For me, I would rank this on the higher end of. This is going to sound very convoluted, but I would rate it on the higher end of their sort of middle.
Yeah, that's kind of where I would say.
Like with Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, well, that was the earlier Pete Docter movie, so that makes sense.
For me, the tippity top is Incredibles and WALL-E.
Yeah,
fighting it out for the top spot.
I think my top is Finding Nemo and WALL-E. And The Incredibles I like, but the Brad Bird ethos feels very strange within Pixar. You know, like his whole thing about being the best that you can be, and you're better than everybody else, and you got to show it off. It's very different from something like WALL-E and Up. Yeah, everyone compares Brad Bird to Ayn Rand, which I think a little harsh. But Pete Docter seems to be much more interested in like development and in kind of figuring out your place, and like you hit a point and you have to figure out where to go from there and how to, operate within the world that you set up for yourself. And I like Pete Docter a lot. I like, this is cartoony in the way that Monsters, Inc. was, which in a way that really works.
Right.
The squareness of Carl and Russell's big, gooey, oblong face. Like, they don't really look like real people, but they're so expressive in the way that they look. Like, it's like Anton Ego in Ratatouille, where he's so long and thin, and he doesn't look like a real person, but you get who his character is. And Carl and Russell grow so much as characters that still have that very expressive design that lets you know who they are.
I love the squareness. Of
Carl. And his chair is square, and his wife's chair is so long.
And which works also great, as we were talking about the visual theme, because he's very sort of boxed in to the house. He rarely leaves the house has to go with him.
Yeah.
Because it represents his wife to him, of course.
And then you see how that changes over the course of the film. The way that it allows itself to change. Like, it allows you to think that there's one thing that is the goal, but at the end it's something completely different. That's a really bold storytelling technique that most movies, animated or not, aren't bold enough to try.
It's not something I saw coming.
Yeah,
Animated movies, even the very good ones, are a little bit more predictable, I think.
Yeah.
Than
Even WALL-E is more predictable. When you think about, he goes and he's very steadfastly wants one thing, but Carl's a human, and I think that's what makes a difference. Is he's a human. He has more complicated feelings. I think Carl is about as complex an animated character as we've ever had.
There's all this complexity, and yet if you really look at his dialogue, it's pared down so much.
Yeah.
And it's in the character design. It's in his movements, in little plot details.
And you think about your own grandparents, and that's the hallmark of old men, I think, just to not want to say anything, not want to open up. You have to, you really have to dig into that person to get what you get to what's going on. That's what you get out of Carl.
And I love that they didn't give short shrift to Russell.
Yeah.
Even though they were doing all that, the little boy character, he has his own character arc. And also that's another unexpected element in that doesn't resolve the way you would necessarily think it would in an animated film.
He's not just the overeager Boy Scout. There's a lot more reasons for him. And that's not just to make him more like a melodramatic character. That's what kids do. Kids do things for specific reasons that are a lot deeper than I think most movies give them credit for. And even Kevin the rainbow bird has his own, or her own, should we say, backstory that comes into play. And Doug, too. Doug has dreams. Please go see Up and buy a Doug doll for me. And again, I'm Katey Rich from cinemablend.com.
And I'm Nathaniel Rogers from thefilmexperience.net.
And we'll see you next time.